What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Project Cars 2 and the Ice Track Trials series. Today we're taking 3 new cars on the Mercedes-Benz Ice Track. It's been a little while since I've done this series. I've been having a little break from YouTube recently, not uploading too much. However, today I thought, you know what, need a video for today, so why not do the Ice Track Trials again. This is episode number 9, I believe. We start off with the Ford Bronco Brocky. Now this is a vehicle that was added, I believe, in a DLC way back. It was, I think, even the first DLC for this game. And you know, I always thought this thing was more of an off-roady looking thing. I mean, look at it. It looks like an off-road kind of Ford buggy type thing. But when I went through the different tuning options, I always put, if I can, the stable option for tuning with all the cars. Most cars have a stable option and a loose option. I always go for the stable option. However, the odd car, usually off-road cars and sometimes some high-end crazy race cars, they don't have these stable and loose options. They have different options. This one has, I think, circuit and RTR. I went for circuit. Now the circuit one says tarmac. I'm not sure what the RTR one is though, so I've just kind of decided to go for circuits with this one. And it actually drove alright, but this isn't, you know, the fact that that had a circuit, you know, tarmac spec tells me that this isn't really designed to be an off-roader, which is quite interesting because when you look at it, it really does look like an off-roader, doesn't it? But yeah, this car was interesting. It was fairly nice to drive. I think it has about 600 horsepower, and it dealt with the bumps and stuff alright, you know, even though I don't think it is really designed for off-roading. It obviously, by looking at it, you can tell it can deal with it. It's got the higher suspension, it's got the bouncy suspension, and all round, you know, it does alright with the bumps and the off-roading. The traction's pretty decent, you know, I didn't have any sliding issues or anything, maybe a little bit understeery at times, but I mean, this is one of those vehicles where it's not quite crazy fast like the, you know, the rallycross cars, but then it's still nice enough to drive that it's not kind of twitchy and horrible like some of the hypercars and, you know, race cars. However, it kind of fits into this kind of awkward spot where it just isn't particularly quick all round. It's just kind of like, alright, it's alright to drive, but it's just not very quick. That's definitely what I felt with this vehicle. I did the run on my first shot, and yeah, pretty nice to drive. Just wasn't particularly quick. Next up we have the Pagani Zonda Cinque. This is the road car I decided to choose for today. I haven't done a Pagani on this series so far, so I thought, you know what, let's do the Zonda Cinque because I do quite like this car. The Pagani Zonda is a car that I've always really liked, and the Cinque is probably one of my favourite, if not my favourite version of it. This was a bit scary. Obviously, this thing's got, I can't remember how much horsepower, over 700 I believe, and it's, as you can see, it's a convertible as well, which is always the best sort of conditions when you're in the ice and the snow. I'm sure the driver is absolutely freezing his balls off, but yeah, I mean, this thing obviously not designed for snow and ice. Very twitchy at times, especially getting off the line, you know, with these rear-wheel drive, high-powered hypercars and race cars. You always have issues off the start line where if you put too much power down, the car just kind of spins, usually to the left, just kind of spins around. I did have that issue with this car. However, you know, after getting used to it, you just got to be a bit more careful on the throttle. That's the same around all the corners. Just be careful on the throttle. Don't chuck it in too much because otherwise it will slide around. As you can see there, had a little bit of a twitch. It's hard to do a run without having a little twitch. Basically with this series, as soon as I get a run that I'm at least happy with, I just leave it at that. I just kind of do it until I don't have a massive off or don't go off the track slightly. That's how I do this series. And yeah, this thing was, as you can see, as I throw it into the kind of, not really a hairpin, but the kind of long left-hander, I really threw it in there, kind of got it sliding a little bit. I use my Logitech G29 racing wheel and pedals for this series, and pretty much every time I play Project Cars 2. So, you know, just throw it around the corner, hold the wheel, and just keep it going around. A very fun little car to drive around. It took me maybe 3 or 4 attempts. Most of those earlier attempts were because I spun the car off the start line, or, you know, I took a bit too much power, a bit too much speed into a corner. But yeah, altogether a little bit difficult to drive, but nothing too crazy. But then finally we have the Jaguar XJR 9LM. Now this thing, for a starter, looks ridiculous. As you can see, the two rear wheels have been covered for aerodynamics, basically, so to make it streamlined. So you can only see the two front wheels. I think cars that look like this, the race cars, they look interesting. They're definitely unique. And also, it has a dinner plate on the back of it. Now, you might think, oh, with that massive wing, we're going to get some decent downforce. No, that's not the case at all, because the problem is, that wing is designed when the car's going at 200 miles an hour. We're barely breaking 60. We're barely breaking 60 around this course. Most of the time we're going maybe 40, 50 miles an hour. Probably about 35, 40 miles an hour around most of these corners. We can get up to about 60, 70 on some of the straights. But yeah, the wing's just a hindrance when you're going at this sort of speed, which means that it absolutely does nothing. It does nothing for the car whatsoever. The steering on this was actually a really weird car to drive, because you have it a lot with these race cars that have these massive wings at the back. They're designed to go at high speeds, and they can carry that speed because of the giant wing keeping them down. But when you put them through a course like this, which is a very slow course, very slow corners, and on the ice and snow, the wing just doesn't serve a purpose, and it actually makes the steering really light. It was really weird. As soon as I set off, the steering, usually you've got a bit of force feedback, you can really feel it. With this car, no, it almost feels like you have no force feedback on, because the wheel's just so light. The car's basically just gliding across the ice, and it's very strange. It means that it's an unbelievably twitchy thing to drive. When you get used to it, it's not too bad, but I was having to be very cautious. I could definitely go quicker with this vehicle if I gave myself half an hour, maybe even 20 minutes, just to kind of get used to it. But, that's not what I do with this series. I try and get a decent enough clean run, and then that's it, straight off the bat. So, yeah, this one was interesting to drive. Like I said, the wheel was just basically no force feedback, just very, very strange indeed. Very strange to drive. One of the weirdest cars I've had to drive on this series. I've had it where cars have done that before, but not quite to this extent, I don't think. It was definitely an experience, and after a few attempts, I did finally get it through the course. Anyway, so we go on to the leaderboard, and the fastest car of the day is the Pagani Zonda Cinque with a 2 minutes 3.220, puts it in 11th place. That's a pretty decent showing from the Pagani Zonda, I'd say. We then have to go to 18th place for the Ford Bronco Brocky with a 2 minutes 4.814. Yeah, that thing actually doesn't go as quick as the Zonda. Like I said, it was easier to drive than the Zonda, but the Zonda, when you can get the power down, it's obviously going to be quicker, and it kind of glides around the corners a bit more. So it does go about a second quicker, just over a second quicker actually. And then our slowest car of the day is, of course, the Jaguar XJR 9LM with a 222.933, all the way down in 25th place. The Jaguar's not quick. The steering's too light. It just doesn't like the snow on the ice at all, which is to be expected. The wing just doesn't do anything for it. But yeah, definitely an experience. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Comment what other cars you'd like to see me take on the Ice Track Trials series, and I'll see you guys in the next video.